Good day, everyone. Welcome to another fruitful discussion in this subject, Pec 3, the teacher and the community, school culture, and organizational leadership. I am P. Bulyoso, PS Ed 3. Together with my partner, Ms. Maricar Castillo, we will going to discuss about school policies and their functions, importance of policies, and effective policy formulation and implementation in a school-community partnership. As of my part, I will be discussing school policies and their functions and importance of policies. Policy is generally an intent, a set of rules and principles adopted for ease of governance within an organization. It is fundamentally important for organizations to have implementable policies, as it forms a linking pin between the school management, teachers, students, parents, and the rule of law. An organization without policy is an organization without control. Schools are institutions motivated by a shared vision. Necessarily, schools must have policies for them to realize their vision and mission. These policies are a reflection of the values of the people who created it. Whatever policies are formulated must be renowned to the improved teaching learning of learners, which is the very reason of the existence of school.
Policy on student tardiness and absences. A learner who incurs absences of more than 20% of the prescribed number of class or laboratory periods during the school year or semester should be given a failing grade and not earn credits for the learning area or subject. Furthermore, the school head may, at his or her discretion and in the individual case, exempt a learner who exceeds the 20% limit for reasons considered valid and acceptable to the school. The discretionary authority is vested in the school head and may not be availed of by a student or granted by a faculty member without the consent of the school. Habitual tardiness, especially during the first period in the morning and in the afternoon, is discouraged. Teachers shall inform the parents or guardians through a meeting if a learner has incurred 5 consecutive days of tardiness. For all students, here is the excerpt of Ted Order 54, Series of 2009. Activities. All PTA activities within the school premises or which involve the school, its personnel or students, shall be with prior consultation and approval of the school head. Financial matters, such as collection, shall be made by the PTA, subject to the following conditions. Its collection of the school publication fee, Supreme Student Government, Developmental Fund, and other club membership fees and contributions is coursed through the PTA as requested by the concerned organization. The amount collected shall be remitted immediately to the school. SSG or other student organizations concerned on the day it was collected, the pertinent organization shall deposit the funds with a reputable bank on the next banking day under the organization's account. No service fees shall be charged against any student organization by the PTA. Non-compliance or any violation of the aforementioned condition shall be ground for the cancellation of the PTA's recognition and the filing of appropriate charges as the case may be. Policy on collection of contributions. Cognizant of the need of an organization for adequate funds to sustain its operations, a duly recognized PTA may collect voluntary financial contributions from members and outside sources to enable it to fund and sustain its operation and the implementation of its programs and projects, exclusively for the benefit of the student and the school where it operates. The PTA's program and project shall be in line with the School Improvement Plan or SIP. The contribution should be a reasonable amount as may be determined by the PTA Board of Directors. Non-payment of the contributions by parent or member shall not be a basis for non-admission or non-issuance of clearance to the child by the school concerned. The contribution shall be collected by the PTA treasurer on a per-parent member basis, regardless of the number of their children in school. No collection of PTA contributions shall be done during the enrollment period, and no teacher or any school personnel shall be involved in such during the collection activities. Safekeeping of all funds, all collections of contributions or proceeds of fundraising activities shall be deposited in a reputable banking institution as determined by the Board of Directors. The PTA's treasurer or a duly authorized representative shall undertake the collection and shall issue official receipt or acknowledgement receipt. In no case shall any school official or personnel shall be entrusted with safekeeping and disbursement of collection made by the PTA. All disbursement of funds shall be in accordance with generally accepted accounting and auditing rules and regulations. PTAs are prohibited from interfering in the academic and administrative management and operations of the school and of the DepEd in general, engaging in any partisan political activity within premises, operating a canteen or school supply store, or being a concessionaire inside the school or nearby premises, or offering these services to the school as its client either directly or indirectly, selling insurance, penny plans, or similar schemes or programs to students and their parents, and such other acts or circumstances analogous to the following. PTA officers and members of the Board of Directors are prohibited from collecting salaries, honoraria, emoluments, or other forms of compensation from any funds of the funds collected or received by the PTA. PTAs shall have no right to disburse or change any fees as a service or percentage against the amount collected pertinent to the school publication fee, supreme student government, developmental funds, and other club membership fees and contributions. In no case shall a PTA or any of its officers or members of the Board of Directors call upon students and teachers for purposes of investigation or disciplinary action. The recognition of any PTA shall be cancelled by the Division PTA Affairs Committee upon the recommendation of the school head concerned of any violation of the above-mentioned prohibited activities. Thereafter, the school head may call for a special election to replace the Board of Directors of the PTA whose recognition was cancelled. Criminal, civil, and administrative actions may be taken against any member of the Board of the PTA who may appear responsible for the failure to submit the necessary annual financial statements or for failure to account the funds of the PTA. Here is a part of policy on grading given by the DepEd Central Office. DepEd Order Number 8, Series of 2015, dated April 1, 2015. What is the grading system? The K-12 Basic Education Program uses a standard and competency-based grading system. These are found in the curriculum guides. All grades will be based on the weighted raw score of the learner's summative assessments. The minimum grade needed to pass a specific learning area is 60, which is transmuted to 75 in the report card. The lowest mark that can appear on the report card is 60 for quarterly grades and final grades. For these guidelines, the department will use a floor grade considered as the lowest possible grade that will appear in a learner's report card. Learners from grade 1 to 12 are graded on written work, performance task, and quarterly assessment every quarter. These three are given specific percentage weights that vary according to the nature of the learning area. Formative assessment may be seen as assessment for learning so teachers can make adjustment in their instruction. It is also assessment as learning wherein students reflect on their own progress. According to the UNESCO Program on Teaching and Learning for a Sustainable Future, formative assessment refers to the ongoing forms of assessment that are closely linked to the learning process. It is characteristically informal and is intended to help students identify strengths and weaknesses in order to learn from the assessment experience. Formative assessment may be given at any time during the teaching and learning process. It is also a way to check the effectiveness of instruction. Summative assessment, on the other hand, may be seen as assessment of learning, which occurs at the end of a particular unit. This form of assessment usually occurs toward the end of a period of learning in order to describe the standard reached by the learner. Often, this takes place in order for appropriate decision about future learning or job suitability to be made. Judgments derived from summative assessment are usually for the benefit of people other than the learner. Summative assessment measures whether learners have met the content and performance standards. Teachers must use methods to measure student learning that have been deliberately designed to assess how well students have learned and are able to apply their learning in different contexts. Let us proceed to another topic, which is the importance of policies. Schools, in partnership with their community, have their own picture of what they want to be, or the vision statement, and so must offer services and must do what they are supposed to do, or the mission statement. In order to realize what they envision themselves to be, for this to happen, policies must be in place. Observance of these policies ensure everyone in the school community to toe the line. These conditions are ideal, like when all members of the school community are perfect. School heads, teachers, students, parents, and non-teaching personnel, and other members of the outside community, there may be no need for a policy. The truth and conditions in the school community and in this world are far from ideal, and persons that make the school community are far from the perfect, and so the need for policy. One may wonder as to why the Department of Education has issued very stringent policies and guidelines for the PTAs in matter of collecting contributions. Even in engaging in any partisan political activity within school premises is written as one of the prohibited activities. There must be a history to that. Perhaps, malversation of funds and other forms of abuse happened in the past. While school policy on grading system is important for everyone concerned to know how grades are computed. Both students and parents know how grades are derived objectively. Percentage grades for each component are clear. Teachers are guided in their assessment practices. The grading policy ensures objective assessment practice. Without the grading policy, grading may become highly subjective. Similarly, if there are no policies on student tardiness and absenteeism, students may just came late or absent. The policies on student tardiness and absenteeism certainly will curb tardiness and absenteeism to ensure learning. That's all. Thank you.
Good day and have a pleasant day to everyone. Our classmates, especially to our English classmate, Mrs. Carajoy Torres Panay. I am Maricar Gobena Castellano. My partner in this report is Miss Lee Auntie Carlota Porto, and we are currently taking Bachelor of Secondary Education major in English at Mount Carmel College of Pasadena. And we were going to discuss the school policies and their function, importance of policies, and effective policy formulation and implementation in school community partnerships. Apparently, I am the first reporter, and the topic that I will be going to discuss is all about the school policy and their function. As a student, I know all of us already know what is the school policy and their function, right? Because before we step in school, we already know the rules and regulations or the rights given students and what is the vision and mission of school, how it's important to us and for people to. Therefore, we need this kind of policy to have a policy education. So before I discuss my topic for today, I have a question. As a student, how important is the policy in school? Why we need this kind of policy? And what is the benefit of it to students, teachers, and staff of school? And now, let's start our discussion for today. Did you know that policies are very important because they help a school establish rules and procedures and create standards of quality for learning and safety as well as expectations and accountability. So without these, schools will lack the structure and function necessary to provide the educational needs of students. Ultimately, policies are necessary to the success and safety of a school. In school policy, we have policy and procedures. So it helps define rules, regulations, procedures, and protocols for schools. All of these are necessary to help a school run smoothly and safely and ensure that students receive a quality of education. Schools have policies for several reasons. Policies establish rules and regulations to guide acceptable behavior and ensure that the school environment is safe for students, teachers, and school staff. School policies also help create a productive learning environment. So why do we need rules and regulations? So in order for rules and regulations to be in place and enforced, policies are created, often by the local school board. Having these policies in place means there are determined procedures for how school operations are handled, down to every minute detail, so that educators, staff, and students know what is expected and can act accordingly. So this saves time, prevents confusion, and unifies the school. We have also safe learning environment. So, what is safe learning environment? Students, teachers, and staff members deserve to feel physically and psychologically secure in their environment. So in order to create this environment, policies are created and stated that the established safety standards for the physical environment and mental state of students and staff. So this is done by creating policies such as fire drills, anti-bullying policies, and mental health guidelines. Last is setting goals and establishing productivity. So when we say setting goals and establishing productivity, in order for an institution to encourage higher learning, policies must be in place that establish goals as set forth by the school board. So these policies establish standards and help hold schools and educators accountable to the public. This is an important for relating education to the community and making it responsible to the larger world. Accountability through the use of goal-oriented policies ensures that students are receiving a valuable education. In school policies, we have 10 essential policies for the student handbook. Every school has a student handbook. A handbook is a living, breathing tool that will be updated and changed every year. As a school principal, it is essential that you keep your student handbook up to date. It is also important to realize that every school is different. They have different needs and these students have different issues. A policy that will work in one district may not be as effective in another district. Here are 10 essential policies that every student handbook should include. Number 1. Attendance policy. Attendance does matter. Missing a lot of class can create huge faults that could lead to academic failure. A student will recess an average of 10 days a year beginning in pre-kindergarten through 12th grade will miss 140 days of school. That adds up to almost an entire school year that they have missed. Looking at it in that perspective, attendance becomes increasingly important, and without a solid attendance policy, it is virtually impossible to deal with. Targets are equally important because a student who comes in late time after time is essentially playing catch-up every day they are late. Number 2. Bullying policies. Never in the history of education has it been as important as it is today to have an effective bullying policy. Students across the globe are affected by bullying every single day. The number of bullying incidents only continues to increase each year. So we hear about students dropping out of school or taking their lives because of bullying all too often. Schools have to make bullying prevention and bullying education in a top priority. This starts with a strong bullying policy. If you haven't got an anti-bullying policy or it hasn't been updated in several years, it is time to adjust it. Number 3. Cell phone policy. Cell phones are a hot topic among school administrators. Over the last 10 years, they have increasingly caused more and more problems. With that said, they can also be a valuable educational tool, and in a catastrophic situation, they can save lives. It is essential that schools evaluate their cell phone policy and figure out what will work best for their kids. Number 4. Dress code policy. Unless the school requires their students to wear uniforms, then a dress code is essential. Students continue to push the envelope when it comes to how they dress. There are so many distractions that a student can cause by how they dress. Like many of these policies, they need to be updated yearly, and the community the school is located can influence what is appropriate and what is inappropriate. Last year, a student came to school wearing bright lime green contact lenses. It was a major distraction for the other students, and so we had to ask him to remove them. It wasn't something that we had dealt with before, where we adjusted and added to our handbook for this year. 5. Fighting policy. There is no denying that not every student will get along with every other student. Conflict will happen, but it should never get difficult. Too many negative things can occur when students engage in physical fights. Not to mention that the school will be held liable if a student is injured severely during the fight. Weak consequences are the key to stopping fights from occurring on campus. Most students do not want to be suspended from school for a long period of time, and they especially do not want to deal with the police. So having a policy in our student handbook which deals with fighting with such consequences will help deter many fights from occurring. Number 6. Respect policy. I am a firm believer that when students respect teachers and teachers respect students, that it can only benefit learning. Students today, as a rule, aren't as respectful elders as what they used to be. They simply aren't taught to be respectful at home. Character education is increasingly becoming the school's responsibility. Having a policy in place where education and demands mutual respect between both the students and the faculty or staff can have a profound effect on your school building. It is amazing how much more pleasant it can be and how discipline issues can be minimized through such a simple thing as respecting or respecting one another. Number 7. Student Code of Conduct. Our student handbook needs a student code of conduct. The student code of conduct will be a simple list of all the expectations that the school has for its students. This policy should be at the front of your handbook. The student code of conduct does not need to go into a lot of depth, but instead needs to be an outline of the things you feel are most important to maximize a student's learning potential. Number 8. Student discipline. Students need to have a list of all the possible consequences if they make a poor choice. This list will also assist you in trying to figure out how to deal with a particular situation. Being fair is very important as you make discipline decisions, but there are many factors that go into that situation. If your students are educated on the possible consequences and have access to those in their handbook, they cannot tell you that they didn't know or that it isn't true. Number 9. Student risk and safety policy. There are times when you will have to search a student or student's locker, backpack, or etc. Every administrator needs to know proper search and future procedures because an improper or inappropriate search can result in legal action. Students too should be made aware of the risk. Having a search and seizure policy can limit any misunderstanding about a student's rights when it comes to searching them on their position. And last, number 10 is the substitute policy. In my opinion, there is no job in education more daunting than that of a substitute teacher. A substitute often doesn't know students very well, and students take advantage of them every opportunity they get. So the administrators often deal with many issues when substitutes are used. With that said, substitute teachers are necessary. Having a policy in your handbook to discourage poor students' behavior will help. Educating your substitute teachers on your policies or expectations will also cut down in discipline issues. In school policies and their functions, we have also policy on collections of contributions. Cognizance of the need of an organization for adequate funds to sustain its operations. A duly recognized PTA may collect voluntary financial contributions from members and outside sources to enable it to fund and sustain the operations and the implementation of its programs and projects exclusively for the benefit of the students and the school where it operates. So the PTA's programs and projects should be aligned with the school implementation plan or improvement plan.